short teaching we'll have now before we go into a time of honest discussion. It's me just trying to look at the key qualities of an effective nation builder. I felt in my spirit to really come again and address this. Why? There's some of us here who have considered ourselves nation builders, who've given our heart and our lives to building Nigeria. And it is important to remind ourselves what are those key qualities, the ones that we have identified with, the ones we are still struggling with. It's good to remind ourselves, because at the end of the day, these qualities must consistently be seen and be embedded into us again and again. Those are for those who've taken this bold step. And for others who keep saying, when you say nation builders every time, what does it mean? What do they have? Because time and time again, people say to me, oh, Nigeria, will it change or not? Or this country, or the state of things. And I keep saying this. The change that we're seeking will not come from the people in the current culture. The change that we will see will come from those who have carried the burden God had put in there. We didn't get that burden. I was doing okay in the UK. I was happy in my job. I was still serving God in church. I was doing everything in church. But the Lord dragged me out of the comfort and placed the burden in me to do this work that I do today. The burden comes from God. So the few people He has laid that burden on are the ones who will carry the change that we're seeking. So let's not even start looking for change amongst people that don't even care about change. The change that we seek will come from those who have been given the burden, and usually they're in minority. And so if we take that burden, it's up to us also to keep reminding ourselves what are the qualities. For those who have not taken the bold step to launch out, what are the qualities I need to have as I seek to launch out? For those who launched out, we have to remind ourselves what are the qualities that would enable me to stay effective as a nation builder. In writing this, I had to sit down and review it myself and to ask myself each of these points. How am I doing in this area? Because one of the problems there is you can start something and really feel okay with yourself, but you're losing effectiveness because of lack of review. So that's why we're looking at these qualities. The first quality, and in my view the most essential, it's belief. The first quality of an effective nation builder, or anybody that seeks to become a nation builder, we must believe. I was going to say, my note actually said, believe in Nigeria, and yes, that is true. But I've come to recognize as a person of faith that it is impossible for us to believe in Nigeria without first believing in God. We have to. And yes, we'll say we believe in God. After all, we're people of faith. We make the confession of faith. We receive salvation for those who are Christians. But the truth of the matter is, when you're talking about the quality of belief in Nigeria, there's got to be a total belief in God. Let me explain. When we say believe in Nigeria and the possibility of her development, and you look around you, you begin to wonder, it's not possible. When you say believe in Nigeria, okay, I believe, because God has placed the burden there. When you go out and the prevailing culture is against your new way of thinking, your new way of doing stuff, you begin to wonder, is it really worth it? You begin to question. But the basis of our moving forward is when we believe in God and His plans for Nigeria. Because there is a belief we have in God that we don't wait to see results. We just are absolutely persuaded that this God that we believe in means well. This God that we believe in will do well. This God that we believe in has done well in time past and will do well again. That belief is absolute. The belief we now have for Nigeria and her possibility of her development stems from that belief. Where that foundation is lacking, this belief in Nigeria will wear out very quickly. Especially when somebody you know dies for the cause and doesn't get justice, or you lose out on something, because that's about to happen. So believing God is critical, but that time, believe in Nigeria. So out of our belief in God, the first quality of an effective nation builder is believe in Nigeria and have possibility of development. It's easier said than done, because even the best of us who felt really compelled about Nigeria's development, things can go wrong sometimes within the environment. Things can go wrong for us. Someone spoke, was it last week or week before, of an educational program they developed, and we went to a local government to try and discuss how they can take this into schools, and we referred to the director of schools for that area. And what was painful was the time this person had taken to develop this plan, and the time this person had said, I'm not asking you to pay me money, I'm saying let's take this program in. And they said no. And he asked why. And they said, we like the way things. And they said, but the results are showing, the statistics are showing that things are not going well. And so the person felt really frustrated. And after all the weeks and months of putting in time, the person said to me, is it worth believing? So in one of those moments where people say things, you really can't answer them back. I just said, I can't really believe in Nigeria without my holding on to my belief in God. Because he called me, he must have known that he was up to something. Because if I didn't hold that on, price we pay is high. One wouldn't keep believing anymore. But we do have to believe. The moment we give up belief, we lose hope. And the moment we lose hope, every other thing falls apart. We really have to believe. And the reason why, for those of us who had that initial belief, oh, this country will change, and we speak it regularly, we have to find that place, especially in time of weariness, when we get an Elijah moment, when we think, Lord, I've tried to, I have spoken, I have done, I have walked, I have trekked from here, I've knocked on doors, I have spoken, they don't want to hear. We need to sit down again and have that quiet time with God. Not only to say, Lord, I believe in you, I believe in your plans for Nigeria, but we have to read to ourselves that I believe in Nigeria and God's plans for her, and that Nigeria will turn around. The second point is one of the dangers of belief is that we can, out of that, say things and do things and not even tolerate what other people think. And the outcome of that could be what is defined as a fixed mindset. A fixed mindset is that mindset where people can say, this is the way we're going to do it, this is the way we've been doing things, and as a result, solutions are applied in a set way. Innovations are not brought in, criticism are not permitted, feedback is not even allowed, setback becomes more than what they are, a setback. They have a greater value because the setback now seems to have taken the wind off our sails and affect our belief. But it is critical for us as effective nation builders to develop and grow with the growth mindset. The growth mindset is not something you attain and keep. It's something that, as the term defines, grow. Keep growing, keep growing, keep growing. The prevailing culture we have in Nigeria is filled with people who are with fixed mindset. A fixed mindset says the country is useless. A fixed mindset says this country will not be built in this generation. In fact, even many of us who call ourselves nation builders, who have a strong desire for Nigeria to change, I am making some of those statements. But with a growth mindset, you acknowledge the problem, but we say there is a problem, but there are solutions. We're going to raise solutions, we're going to find solutions, and we're going to grow as a result. And the benefit of the growth mindset is that whilst a fixed mindset says this is all there is, and this is all I know, a growth mindset says this is not all there is, it is not all I know. So before we go on to the next point, it's important to allow this growth mindset to sit. As we talk about nation building, we like to say that we all know this. Nation building is not exactly what you do. It's primarily who you are. And the only way you can become and be this is that there has to be a shift in how our belief system, which is the mindset, and in the values we carry. Values cannot come in with a fixed mindset, because the fixed mindset said this is all there is. You can't imbibe core values for nation building. We only attain that when we have a growth mindset. So, nation builders, you had started your journey with growth mindset. The question is the growth mindset still there? Because it has to keep growing. The fixed mindset is so easy to slip back in, especially after a few setbacks. So we must develop and sustain a growth mindset to enable us to be effective as nation builders. For those who want to become nation builders, who've carried the burden, who've looked at things and think, I've had enough, it is time to ask yourself, do I have a fixed mindset? Because without a shift to a growth mindset, it won't be possible. I'm working on a book now which is looking at mindset, and I'm in writing that book discovering so much about how mindset, in my view, is the biggest hindrance to Nigeria's development. As that book comes out in a few months, we'll get to understand more about that. But what tends to happen with the growth mindset is, as a result of the growth mindset and desiring to know things and desiring to grow as a result, we begin to spend less time on things that are not useful. Spend less time at leisure activity, parties, weddings, funerals. We need to attend them. We spend less time because we need time to go and find answers. We need time to invest into solutions. The problem with a fixed mindset is the focus is on the problem. And when the focus is on the problem, you know what the problem is. In a few moments, we state it all out, as we do in many of our gatherings, where 2 or 3 Nigerians are gathered, Nigeria's problems are discussed again and again. But a growth mindset person is interested in solutions, they're solution-oriented. So they're not interested in another discussion about problems, they're interested in discussions about solutions. Which leads to the next point, research. As a result of having a growth mindset, the third quality of an effective nation builder is the lifestyle of research. Because what the growth mindset has done is to seek solutions rather than focus on problems, the mind starts looking for information, start looking for answers. So the people with this research mindset, which is a fruit of the growth mindset, and the research culture, which is a fruit of the growth mindset, are people who listen. And the first thing that happened to me when I really became a nation builder, I'd carried burden for Nigeria for a long time in the UK. But you know that kind of burden when that country is useless. That country, the leaders are useless. The people don't care. And you're critical of the country, you're critical of the people, you're critical of the way they eat, you're critical of the way they talk, everything. It was when the Lord really placed it on my heart that until you carry a growth mindset, you're not going to realize that those people are you. Those things they do, you do them. And when I opened my eyes to recognize, okay, the shift in mindset came from fixed to growth, I started growing. But what tended to happen when I started learning how to research answers was that you start having this value compassion. You recognize that people don't know. You get to that place where Jesus felt like, how will they know if no one tells them? How will they be told if no one goes? You recognize people do what they do because they don't know. That's what, as you begin to research and find answers, you think, okay, as the research I'm doing for the mindset book, I'm discovering, wow, I don't expect many people to change the way they're doing things because they don't even understand the mindset and how it operates. We learn to listen, and we must listen to what people are saying and what people are thinking. And that's a critical role as a nation builder. We must not lead this campaign of being critical and criticizing everything. As nation builders with a research culture, we're not criticizing, we're listening to people. As we're listening to people, we're learning more about the people, learning more about the problem, so that when we go and research on the answers, we know what questions to ask. I've always said this, question by its definition, answer, by its definition, is a response to a question. So if we're going to get answers, we must generate questions. Without generating the appropriate questions, we cannot generate the appropriate answers. And this is again a problem with the growth mindset, fixed mindset, because without a growth mindset, you're not asking questions. And when you do, you're asking the wrong questions. You get the wrong answers. To develop this research culture, which we nation builders and anybody that wants to join the trade must adopt, we have to develop the culture of asking questions. With a growth mindset, so we're asking the right questions. Not this country is so useless, will it ever change in this generation? Is this country is going to change? What are the real problems? And we're listening to people who helps us identify what the real problem is. So we go in search of the real solutions. So asking questions is critical. Question everything. And an exercise I do, which I encourage a lot of people to do, you're driving on the road, you see a poster, question that poster. Why is it there? What is the message they're trying to put out? Could they do better? An advertising board, a billboard. What are they trying to advertise? Are they communicating their message better? What it does is to get the brain cells activated, because effective nation builders are people who are thinking. The critical thinking people. In this research culture, we must become critical thinkers. Most of us in this country are brain dead. We are brain dead to a point that our fixed mindset just says this is the path to follow. We all criticize the bricklayers and the workers that when we ask them to do stuff, they go and do things the way they've done it. And when you ask them, they say this is how we've always done it. But it's the same for everybody. You go to a bank, you go to sign contracts, they do things the same way, and you say, no, I didn't ask for this. These are the three things that, okay, this is how we do things. Even professionals, top professionals do things. Politicians do the same thing. Churches, in the main, do the same thing. Religious leaders, every sector, it just seems to be, this is the path we follow. If someone introduces one new thing, we all join and add that new thing. We don't seek to think critically and think, what is the objective? Is it being served by this? The research culture brings those questions. The research culture enables us to develop a reading culture. If we don't have underneath this culture, research of always seeking for answers and going in search of them, how would we read? It's a tragedy that Nigeria has a lot of people who read books, but they don't do anything with the content of the book. Leadership book, Nigeria seems to be one of the countries around the world where leadership books are bought in thousands. Okay, many people buy and keep on the shelf, but others read, but they don't do anything. There is no top leadership expert that has not visited Nigeria. And we will pay 10, 20, 50,000 pounds and naira to attend this event, but yet we're still having issues with leadership. How will we learn when underneath it is a fixed mindset and the research culture is lacking? We're not reading the books because we're in search of solution. We're reading the books so that we can put it down as one of the books we read and it's one of our badges. We must research. And I have to emphasize this point because even those of us who are in the front line, the nation builders in the front line, most of us have stopped the act of researching. And then we stop researching, we stop growing. And we stop growing, we stop our effectiveness. And we stop our effectiveness, we who carry the work are failing. Nothing is going to happen. God is not doing that work through the people out there. God is doing the work through the ones He's given the burden to. That's how He works. He doesn't come and just say, okay, they are not working, let me lead in, let me go in there and make things happen. He puts the burden into us and we lead. We must not stop researching. We must not stop reading. We must not stop asking questions and seeking answers for the questions. And what is interesting about this culture of asking questions is that the people around you, when they soon find out that you're a person who asks a lot of questions, they'll be careful to hang around you. The people who make claims, when they are around you, will be bothered because they know you ask questions. And you're not just asking surface questions or closed questions, open questions. We must really develop this culture of asking questions as part of our research culture. And the truth is, as nation builders, we are solution providers, and the quality of our solution is dependent on our research. So, if you're a nation builder, you must spend a lot of time reading. You must spend a lot of time reading blogs, reading books, reading autobiographies, reading about other nations where people have built it and learned how they built it. There are enough case studies out there. And when we say nation building, some of us are called to politics, some of us education, some of us healthcare. I can see people here who are doing different initiatives. For your own area, your research should always include people who are doing stuff in that area. There must be forerunners in that area who are doing stuff. Study them, follow them, read their books. If they have blogs, read their blog. There must be constant research. We must be growing in content, because the quality of what we give is dependent on the quality of what we put inside. So, I must add one punchline there, which I kind of hinted earlier. The problem there is that a prevailing culture is fixed and doesn't have a research culture. When you start asking questions, being critical in your thinking, people will struggle to be around you because you're asking for too much. They kind of feel like your own too plenty. I went to cut my hair yesterday, and at the salon, they're so used to you sit down, how do you want to shave here, and off they go. Then when it comes to your beard, they just do it as everyone. And I looked at the guy and I thought, hang on, are you done? It's done, it's ready to do the tidy up. I said, no. I gave you specific instructions, and I just waited to see what you do with them. You've just created your own. Oh, this one fine with you. I said, no. Put back the stuff, let's start all over again. This are, you go through here, you go through there, each step. And you will not believe, inside of me, I'm thinking, this man, the next time I will come to this shop, you will just be dodging me. But I recognize we need more of this. Instead of me shying away, we need more of this. Take time to ask, because what I'm also helping him do is to recognize that everyone has a peculiar need. Don't offer the same solution. Think what each person needs and provide them. And in so doing, wake his brain cells. Because he comes to work in the morning, provides the same thing for everybody. His brain is there on autopilot. But I helped him to get thinking. So I had to fight that temptation to think, like I said, they worry this guy. But we must do that. We must ask questions, we must be critical thinkers. Because we're not only doing that for our benefit, we're helping to challenge the prevailing culture. The next one is the people of influence. I get asked this so many times. How can one person change this nation? They say to me, they carry Nigeria for your head. How can you alone change Nigeria? But the question is, how else does change come? It comes with one person who is totally sold out, doing what he says he does, not only saying it, he's doing it, totally sold out, there's no middle ground. They're consistent in what they say and what they do and how they live their lives. And as a result of this, the members of their families, their friends, their colleagues, their neighbors recognize that this person is on a mission somewhere. And that's how influence comes. Everybody is doing something in this light, you do it in another light. And you're consistent in it. Whether we admit it or not, we have an influence. Of course, there's a prevailing culture. I keep mentioning prevailing culture. Our society has a way of doing things, a way of life. That's culture. It's prevailing because it's dominating. So everyone does things this way. As nation builders, we don't. We do things that are right. We not only do things that are right, we do it with the right motives. And our growth mindset means that we're doing things differently. We're spending our time. We can go for a wedding, and after 10, 20, 15 minutes or 1 hour, we've had enough. 4 hours at a wedding, why? Many of the funerals we do should be done in 30 minutes. As a nation builder, if you have a funeral in your family, an opportunity to say, we won't waste time. Members in my family who get to watch this video will know we fought with uncles, we fought with aunts. I wish my uncles and aunts would listen as well. The motive was clear that we will not do. I had an opportunity with my father's funeral not to follow the prevailing culture. He was a chief, he was a retired government man. We will not do all that processes. Finish the church service, prompt, go and bury the man, eat your food, drink, and go home. Let us get on with our lives. Opportunity to do things differently. There was so much opposition, but because in the family I've been consistent in the things I see and the things I do prior to that, there were some who stood with me to say, go ahead. And that influence enabled me to do what I did then, and the influence is ongoing because the next time we want to do something, and I see, no, we want to do souvenir, we spend money on it. We don't do souvenirs. What is the essence of it? Thank you for coming. Buy. This culture of we buy umbrella, we bring plate and all that. You have lost somebody. You probably borrowed some of the money for it. What is this culture? So we have to take the influence we carry to not only do things differently, but also to enable others to learn a new way of doing things. We lead. Nation builders lead. We have to have it in our mindset, in our heads as we do stuff, that we are influencing people by our way of doing things. It's not just enough to do things differently. There's got to be something in us that is telling us we're influencing the prevailing culture. We're trying to reduce our influence by our influencing it with a new way of doing things. Because new Nigeria would only emerge out of a new culture. Without the new culture, nothing changes. Influence is very important. But what influence does remind us is that we must do that which we say. We can't separate them. The influence must start. If you're a parent, your influence doesn't start with you and your children. Sorry. Shut the door and start all over again. If you're a colleague, your influence must start with your boss and the people that work under you. If you have people living around you, your influence must be in that place. So in summary, influence must be to parents, to our children, to our neighbors, to our colleagues. That's your primary area of influence. If you're not influencing that area for good, know now you're not an effective nation builder. In fact, you're not even helping to build Nigeria. The fifth point is sacrifice. A result of all these things, it's that effective nation builders make huge sacrifices. They give up careers, they give up comfort. For those who are in careers who earn good money, they give up most of that earnings to work, to do stuff. In fact, it helps their influence that they don't only generate good income, but that income goes into doing stuff. We have to recognize that this Nigeria we're looking to build will not be built without a huge dose of sacrifice. There's no two ways about it. And until we get this, the days of Rolex, the days of big cars, the days of big houses will not end. And people will say there's nothing wrong with those. I will say there's something wrong. I've been holding on from saying it for a long time. There's something wrong. In the midst of so much underdevelopment, you can give up that to enable some development and hopefully a more secure society where your children can enjoy the big house, the big cars, and wear the Rolex and not be worried that someone will cut off their hands to take the Rolex, or someone would fix that car that you spend tens of millions to build and to buy and mess it up, and you cannot sue them and get adequate compensation. Because when a mechanic fixes a car, as we are experiencing right now, another problem arises, another problem, and you're not able to say, you know what, these were the three things you were meant to fix, you didn't fix that. See you in court. Are you going to fix it? Are you paying compensation? We can't do that. And all of us just complain and walk away. Not right. We have to make sacrifices to get the job done, to get this nation building moving forward. Sacrifices are needed. Some of us will sacrifice families, some of us will sacrifice friends. It is part of the bargain. Some will lose partners, some will lose children, some will lose parents. Some will even lose their lives. We can celebrate this democracy or whatever people say it is. I say we're thankful. I'm thankful for God for this democracy. But Abiola's life played a part. We cannot deny that. Enko Abiola, love him or hate him, laid down his life. He could have chosen to back out and compromise, and we would not have continued fighting. People pay the price for what we have today. We must be ready to pay the price for the Nigeria we seek tomorrow. There's no doubt about that. In fact, there's a point I wrote down here which is very, very important. Nation builders validate their commitment to nation building by their sacrificial lifestyle. This usually serves as proof of authenticity to those around them. The influence that we have stems from a sacrificial lifestyle. That people look at us, yes, sometimes they call us foolish, but it's amazing how you want to do something and people just turn around and say, I'm here to support that. And they recognize you've not compromised. You've had opportunity to pack it in. No, you're still hanging in there. And that's the point about sacrifice. That you're making your sacrifice and you think you're doing it quietly, but there's somebody who is, there are people around observing what you're giving up for what you're doing. Let's not get this mixed. In order to build Nigeria, we're going to have to give up something. And it's going to be something precious. Unless we say building Nigeria is not precious. And to be honest, most of us think it's not. Until something happens to us. But there is no greater guarantee we have for our present or our future when we get to our pension age. There's no guarantee that they will pay us pensions for those who are on pensionable jobs. There's no guarantee that the bank that you put your savings will still be there. And the problem is not the guarantee. The problem is that when what you put aside is not there, that you're able to take to court and get something done. There is no guarantee that the generation that we call children roaming the streets will not become your local government councillor tomorrow and say that's your house. We want to demolish it. Why? Because local government chairman wants to buy that house. So they create some kind of law that the councillors in the legislative chamber would pass and they would acquire your house. And you won't do anything about it. There will be democracy, majority votes. The best guarantee we have of a better Nigeria is the sacrifice we put today. Because scripture is key about this. The measure in which you put is the measure in which you take out of it. He that sows bountifully, reaps bountifully. As Nigerians, we must remember that scripture. It's a principle in life. If we want a better Nigeria, then there's got to be a significant number of citizens making sacrifices for Nigeria. Not one, two. There's got to be citizens making sacrifices. The final one and the sixth one is routine. It's interesting how anytime you see someone who is making a difference, the first thing that you see about them, you probably wouldn't, I would say it's the first thing, is when you get closer to them. And what is interesting about it, someone wrote a book and said that they were asking him, what is the key to your success? And he kept saying, oh, he does this, oh, he does that, oh, he does this, he does that. And one day, he just put it to him and said, do you know, for all these things you talk about, it's just your routine. Simple. Routine. A routine is things that you do on daily, weekly, and monthly basis. These are things that even if your father or your mother or your child or your relative dies, you may give up for a moment, but you restore it back quickly. Routines are things that the activities does not shift them. For people of faith, we know that the morning devotion, the quiet time we have, reading Bible and praying, is absolutely critical. But in nation building, routine is also critical. There are things that we must be doing on a consistent basis. There's no compromise there. We talked about research, the act of reading books, not only reading spiritual books to aid our spiritual development, because that is our foundation. As we develop spiritually, we're able to develop in other aspects. Development in our career, when I mean career for those who are in ministry or nation building initiative, to grow in that area, we need to be reading a book in that sector. To grow in personal development, we have to read books in that area, those three core areas. But personal effectiveness requires that we're reading books, we're reading blogs, for those who are about fitness, and I recommend fitness because there is something about staying fit. It helps to stay in a good frame of mind, to help critical thinking, to ensure continuous growth. But also, the more people commit to fitness, the more they tend to cut back their times on things that are not useful. Routines, it depends on your own activity, but there's got to be things that you're doing on a consistent basis. And some people's routine has been a decision they make that they don't spend more than 30 minutes at a wedding, reception, at a funeral, or birthday party. It does feel like after that we've had enough drinks and all that. The next thing is just celebrating as if everything is alright. It's good to celebrate, but the time has to be cut back to do other things. So routine is essential. We must have activities that we're doing on a consistent basis. The routine fits into the growth mindset to ensure continuous growth. The routine feeds into the research culture. The routine feeds into our influence, because that influence that people are talking about is the things that they see us do on a consistent basis. There is no shifting ground. People see us do those things those are our routines. Very important. As part of routine, I recommend as nation builders, as part of our effectiveness, to regularly find people to pour out the things that we're learning into. So that is mentoring. As part of it, we're doing verbal communication, talking about ways that people can change, the things that you're doing they can do as well. Talk about modeling. Of course, our lifestyle is modeling, but mentoring, we're finding people and we're pouring out into them. We're regularly doing that. If it's once in a month thing, it's once in a week thing. Because what we're doing there is we're multiplying ourselves. But routine is essential. So for us to build the Nigeria that we seek, it's critical for us to take on those steps. To believe in Nigeria, out of our belief in God and God's plans for Nigeria, to cultivate a growth mindset, which is critical for us to get where we want to go to. Two, develop a research culture where we're constantly learning, asking questions, and going in search of those answers. To influence people, proactively seek to influence the people in our circle of influence, so that we're recruiting more people into the new culture that will build the new Nigeria. To make the sacrifices, and when we're making the sacrifices, to recognize that the sacrifice that we're making is a key price we have to pay for the journey that we're on, and a reminder that there will be more sacrifices. I wish I didn't have to say that, but that's the honest truth. And finally, to have a routine. All those other things sit on this last point, routine. Without a routine, we would lose something to slip through the crack and we wouldn't even notice. So thank you very much. And the exercise I would ask us to do in a quiet time, to sit down and ask ourselves, what qualities are my strength? What qualities do I need to build on? Because at the end of the day, without these qualities on fire, all of these qualities on fire, our effectiveness as nation builders will wane, and that means that God's plans for Nigeria will be hindered. Thank you very much.